Welcome everyone to week 2 review for May Cause Miracles, a 40-day guidebook of subtle shifts for radical change and unlimited happiness. Yay! I've got Erick Silvermoon Garcia with us today. Yay!
Morning!
We are doing this review. This is kind of an experiment for us. We're kind of testing out this book and these theories in the book to see if we really can create radical shifts and miracles in our life every day. But before we get started, I do want to take a few moments to honor those who have fallen in pursuit of our freedom here in the United States. I am a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I've got my little, yay, flags. But yes, you know, most of us honor and recognize our freedom usually without even realizing it. You know, Memorial Day weekend is a 3-day weekend that most people go out and they go on the boat or the lake or they go fishing or they go barbecuing or whatever, and literally it is the epitome of freedom and, you know, being able to just hang out with friends without fear of, you know, anything happening to them. And Memorial Day, or this Monday or today, we honor that, and we honor the people who really did give all and who have, you know, fought for our freedom, and those heroes, those unsung heroes most of the time. And so I'd love for all of us to just take a few moments to just go within and feel the gratitude and the appreciation for those people who have fought for our freedoms, whether you're in, you know, like the United States or if you're in some other country that you do have freedoms. So I'd like for us to just take a few moments and just, you know, really honor and appreciate all that they've given to us, for us. Okay. Yay. Okay. I, for one, feel very grateful for it because, well, just because. Okay, so getting on to this week's week 2 review, we're going to start with Erick, as always. Yay. And so tell us your experience for week 2.
Well, for the beginning of this week, I felt for sure a lot of resistance to it and a little bit of laziness, which I found very weird. And it just kind of started off, like I said last week, I feel like the universe and Gabrielle Bernstein have manifested exactly what I needed to manifest for these weeks so I could experience the lessons, because I feel like everything has been falling in and everything just seems to make sense for that day and that lesson. Like the opportunity is there, and the G word and the F word have been huge, which is gratitude and forgiveness. So I felt myself for sure using a lot of it, and I do work with the angels and archangels, and Archangel Shamiel was very present this week or past week with me. I felt like he was holding sacred space for me the whole entire time this week, and he helped me illuminate everything very brightly so I could see the negativity. And I really noticed how negative I still am, and I'm okay with it. I was able to at least know that I'm being negative to myself, and there's a lot of negative attacks towards myself and others, and so I was able to see it more clearly this week and stop it right as it was happening. And I would counteract it with another affirmation that I believe Gabrielle says of, you know, I witnessed this negative attack either to myself or to others, but I choose to see love instead of fear today. And so it's just one of those things, and as soon as I would say that, I would just tell my spiritual team, thank you so much for that lesson and for the opportunity for me to forgive myself and forgive the other person, because we are a reflection of each other. So the negativity or whatever negative comment I said towards myself, it really is a reflection of how I feel inside. And so that moment that you're able to just stop it and just say, you know, I'm okay with myself, and I apologize for whatever I just said, and, you know, I forgive myself for saying it was a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the major resistance. And the other thing that I've been doing is that this week I've been doing some vocal exercises to strengthen my and exercise my vocal cords so that I'm more of a fluent speaker, and I pronounce my words a little bit better. And what I've noticed is that it has also deepened my voice a little bit, and I felt like it's going to get a little bit deeper the more relaxed and calm I am. And one of the exercises in that too, it said something about releasing stress, because when you're stressed, you're too tense. Mm-hmm. And so this week has been a lot about self-love for me, even though that each day the challenges was really about gratitude and forgiving. So I was able to release whatever resistance I was having to the week and really sit with it, so that I could kind of allow myself to just kind of be calm. Mm-hmm. But one of the notes that I did was actually yesterday, because on Sundays, the way we set it from Monday to Sunday, Sunday really allows us to really reflect on the whole week. There's really not much time to put into it, but that's the day that I really journaled. Because on the week, it really was like a sentence note. But on Sunday, it really was like, I'm very grateful. It was a gratitude list, I think what it was. It really was a gratitude list. I'm very thankful for the lessons this week. I'm grateful that I was able to see it. I even wrote, thank you, Archangel Shamiel, for being with me and holding that light and everything. I mean, it was powerful. And so that was for me, my aha moment is that, yes, I was a little bit negative towards myself and others, but I was able to learn from it and catch myself, and I forgive myself, and it's okay. It's a part of the lessons. I mean, it's not one of those things where you feel like, shit, I set myself back. What happens to everything I've learned? Mm-hmm. It's almost like this week was when you don't know anything, so that you could kind of get a refresher of it. But this time, instead of putting yourself down, be okay with it, because it was a part of the lesson. Mm-hmm. And so that for me was awesome, being okay with going back and working on myself and not seen as a negative as I'm going back tracking rather than moving forward. Because I feel like I've moved forward from where I was 2 weeks ago. And so, yay!
Yay! Awesome! Well, I'm really glad that you brought up that affirmation, and that was from day 12. And one of the things that I wrote in my book was, okay, so this week, for those of you who do not have the book, it's a new self-perception. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any, and that's a quote from Alice Walker. But so, really this is all about kind of reflecting on yourself. And day 8 is witness your self-inflicted fear. Day 9 is become willing to love yourself. 10, I choose to love myself today. 11, self-gratitude. 12 is the F word, which is forgiveness. And 13 is go big and expect miracles. Woo-hoo! And day 14 is reflect and prepare. But day 12, and I'm really glad that you brought this up, was I forgive myself for having this thought and I choose love instead. Now, with that said, last week I mentioned, for those of you who have a challenging time with the word love, what I did was I circled love and put appreciation underneath love, because if you can allow yourself to appreciate that negative thought or that negative vibe or that ego-driven thought, you allow yourself to see the rationale or the reason why ego is bringing that up or why that's coming up, and then you can appreciate, okay, I appreciate this negative thought because it gives me this hindsight. And so many times people get on themselves and they feel so frustrated because I take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Think of that 2 steps back as, going back and going, that's the hindsight is 20/20 thing. So allow yourself to view that going back as reflecting and looking at that situation and saying, you know what? Okay, this is good. I'm glad that I learned this lesson. And sometimes it feels like that we're repeating that lesson, but we're really not, because once we do something, you can never do it again for the first time. So you're allowing yourself to see it for what it is, again, from a different perspective and from a different vantage point, because you've already done something once, and when you go back and review it, you can go, oh, okay, because you have a totally different viewpoint of it, and you've already sort of been there, done that, and so you can allow yourself to appreciate that thing, whatever it is. And I know that when I started working with A Course in Miracles several years ago, oh gosh, I think it's been a little over 2 years ago, and the idea of forgiving myself was weird. I'm like, why would I have to forgive myself? What? So that was kind of a concept that I needed to wrap my head around and to try to get okay with forgiving myself, because I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. And I guess just because I grew up Catholic, the whole forgiveness thing was like, oh, I'm not worthy, and it's, you know, anything that you do that isn't, you know, God-like, you know, is a sin or needs to be repented or all this other jazz. And so the idea of just forgiveness, it reminded me of confession, and I'm going, and so it had a really heavy connotation for myself to bring up the word forgive. And I really like what Gabby talks about, is just being willing to forgive and being willing to forgive yourself. And her concept of forgiveness is just being able to see it with that love and appreciation, and knowing that all of us have these ego-driven thoughts, and that's okay. Just don't dwell on them, because we have over 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are the same as they were the day before. And so in order to create that change of perspective or perception, which is what they call a miracle in, you know, like the Course in Miracles, allow yourself to see love or see ego-driven thoughts or see forgiveness in a totally different light outside of ego. And sometimes it's hard to get outside of ego. And one of the kind of tips and tricks that I would recommend for folks if they're having a challenging time getting outside of ego is go into your heart space and just really breathe into and focus on your heart space, and really kind of bring all of your energy in and just ask your inner guide or your spirit or your inner child the truth of whatever situation that you're feeling, like any type of negative self-talk or judgment or comparison or whatever. Ask yourself how you really truly feel about whatever it is that's going on. One of the things that she talked about in day 9 was judgment and comparison. And this, I have a whole class on judgment and comparison, and this is something that is so huge in our societies. We judge ourselves based on somebody else. We've judged ourselves based on who we used to be in the past. We compare ourselves to the people we see in the media, and it's ridiculous. And it's so it's so easy to let ego take over, especially when we start to compare ourselves to other people. For years, I mean, from the time that I can remember until just a few years ago, I always felt like everybody else knew something that I didn't. I'm like, and I always felt like an outsider. I'm like, shit, what does everybody else know? Because everybody seemed more confident and more like, yay, or whatever. And I'm just like, what does everybody know that I don't know? And, you know, and that was something, seriously, that plagued me for years, almost my whole life. But it wasn't until I just let go of that thought and allowed myself to appreciate that thought and appreciate that shift and the contrast that I saw, and that allowed myself to understand myself even more. And that was the thing that I was like, this is the key. This is the thing that everybody else knows that I don't know. To love and appreciate themselves. And a lot of people will fake it till they make it. And that's a really good way to learn to love and appreciate yourself. And again, I know some people don't jive with the word love, so if you don't, try appreciation or try gratitude, because appreciation vibrationally is the same level as love. So if you can say, I appreciate myself, I'm so grateful that I'm going through this experience, try to find something to be grateful for, even though sometimes some situations suck really bad. Try to appreciate and find some type of something that you can be grateful for in any situation, and just go, I'm so grateful for this. So let's just say they're having a really shitty day, but you have a really nice fresh cup of like water, and go, I appreciate this glass of water. And I know that that's so simple, but allowing yourself to just shift your focus on the one thing that you're grateful for, it can help you just let go of all these other little nuances that just kind of seem to be pecking at you. Because sometimes when ego starts to come in and we start to get that judgment and comparison, and we start to go, oh my God, I suck, blah, you know, and we start to have a pity party for ourselves, you know, it's really easy to just go down that spiral. And, you know, really allowing yourself to find appreciation for anything and everything is really key. And, you know, something else that I wrote down for day 10 is one of the things for the evening exercise is the mirror exercise. And this is really big in our community. This is Louise Hay. And one of the things that she has people do is stand in front of the mirror and say, I love myself. I love you, Flora. I love you. You know, and a lot of people are like, that's so cheesy. I don't recommend that you just start off and say, I love you. I really recommend that you just say, I really appreciate you, or I deeply respect you, or I really care about you. Kind of work your way up. Do baby steps. And that's just my recommendation, because I've worked with a lot of people in doing gratitude work and doing affirmations. And mirror work is really challenging for a lot of people. So I don't recommend people right off the get-go do this type of mirror work. I recommend that people say to themselves first, before they look at themselves, I deeply appreciate where I'm at right now. I deeply honor where I'm at. I appreciate all the experiences that I've been through. And recognize where you're at and where you've come from, and those hindsights, what you've learned about those situations and what you've learned about yourself and what you've learned about others. Because this is something, if you allow yourself to appreciate the situations that you've been in, especially those that you find that you judge yourself harshly, find appreciation in those situations and find gratitude of those situations and what you learned. Like, oh, that's a lesson learned. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. And I've noticed and I've found that with myself and with my clients, when you allow yourself to take those baby steps and appreciate and find gratitude in those lessons learned or those situations that maybe didn't turn out so good, allow yourself to do that, and what happens is you start to find that self-love along the way. And so really this process is all about taking baby steps. It really is about taking baby steps. And so even though that I love that she writes, I choose to love myself fully, I love myself, all this other stuff, but allow yourself to, if you have resistance to the word love, allow yourself to use other words, like I deeply respect myself, I care for myself, I honor myself, I appreciate this situation or that situation, whatever, but really allow yourself to be open to those other types of high vibrational words that can bring you to that place of self-love. So
I agree. Well, when you're talking about not week 2, day 10. Day 10 yeah. For me was, out of all the weeks so far, that day was the hardest. And it was because I told myself I was going to be open to all the experiences and trying it at least once. Yeah. And, I mean, we've talked before of my issues with my appearance and how I still see myself as the fat kid that weighed 280 pounds in high school. Mm-hmm. And so for me to look at myself in the mirror and not see that fat kid, that's the challenge for me, at least the most resistance. So the moment I started to look at myself in the mirror, I started giggling. And I said, why am I giggling? And I was like, because you're about to tell yourself that you love yourself. I was like, you freak, why are you going to tell yourself that? I started laughing, and then I kind of just, okay, well, don't use that word, because if I say I love myself, I'm just going to start busting up, because for me, it's kind of one of those weird things that you really step out of yourself in order to get to be able to say something like that. So I did change it to, today I'm going to honor myself. And I looked at myself, and I just repeated affirmations. I just said, I will surrender to love today, and I will appreciate myself today, and I will see love today. I didn't say that I will see it in me. I just said I will see it generally everywhere around me and myself and others. And so I looked at it, and then I stopped giggling, and then I started getting a little bit teary-eyed, and then I did say I love myself. Yeah. And it was a lot easier. It was a lot easier because I think by saying I appreciate myself and then all these things, you're picking at the wall. And by the time you're done, there's no more wall, and I was able to at least break free from that and say I love myself. Yay! That was big. It was big. Because I know I'm not the 280-pound kid anymore, but it's very hard to not see that person, because it was a big part of my life, and it was that day made me go into my past to find out of why I needed that protection, that shield around me, and how far I've come that I was able to literally shed those pounds as a almost like a protective shell that I didn't need it anymore. And in the spiritual community, that the most spiritual people are usually heavier people. And there's a moment in their spirituality where they completely shed it very easily, quickly too, because they know it's like, I don't need it anymore. And we've seen it with friends and family members. And we've seen that just like, how the hell did you do? It's like, I didn't change my diet. All I did was stop drinking soda for a week, and then boom, 30 pounds. And it's like, no, there's more to it. It's a mindset. And so there was little mini aha moments. And this week, Gabrielle had a lot of one-liners, sentences that were just like, I don't feel like I don't. Yeah, I was just like, oh, I feel like I got hit in the stomach. I was like, oh, that was so good. And I think the reason why we resonate so much with her is because she's real. She's experienced it. And they're not do this or you have to try. It's just you try it. Just try it. Like, who cares? It didn't work for you, well, then who cares? It didn't work for you. Try something else. So I like that. That's why a lot of people, I feel, resonate with her.
Yeah.
So day 10 for me was huge.
That's exciting. Yeah, you know, well, and the cool part is that, you know, day 10, you know, like you said, is a very challenging day. And the cool part is day 11 is self-gratitude.
Yep.
And it's finding that gratitude of like, yes, it's over. I'm just kidding. Like, hey, but no, you know, allowing yourself to really find that appreciation for those challenging times. And you know, those challenging times are the times that create, well, so this is something that I always say in my practice is the tiniest little things are the things that cause the most or the biggest quantum shifts in our life.
Yes. And
the easiest, quickest way to do something is extremely slow. And which a lot of people are like, I don't get it. Why is doing something slowly the fastest way to do something? Well, if you rush through something and don't take the time to fully take in the journey or the whole gamut of what you're experiencing, you miss stuff. It's like, how many times have you watched Pulp Fiction? Every time I watch that show, I see new stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that was there. Yeah. I mean, think about this, you know. But, you know, every time that you experience something, you learn something else. And that's why sometimes people are like, I've already worked through this crap before. Why do I have to do it again? And it's just another layer of the onion. And that's the same thing is going through and looking at yourself and saying, I love you, and kind of chipping away at the wall, like you said, is perfect. I mean, and that's chipping away at each layer of that onion and allowing yourself to see those aha moments and whatnot. Okay, so this is kind of a side random thing. My laptop has 7% battery. We're calling it a miracle here, peeps. And my charger is not working. I've got it plugged into the wall, and it's plugged into my laptop, and it's not working. And my computer just said, your Mac will sleep soon unless plugged into a power outlet. It's plugged in, but it's not seeing that it is. So if we get cut off, I apologize. So anyway, so next week, okay, I'll try to cut this short. Let me see. Okay, so real quick, day 12 was about forgiveness. And one of the things that I highly recommend people do is write letters to people who they want to forgive or they want to be willing to forgive. And I have a fabulous class about this called Journey Through Journaling. I know that Erick has gone through the class. It is fabulous. And yes, I do mean to toot my own horn. But this is something, if you have a challenging time trying to forgive someone, I look at alternative ways to journal. And journaling can be done through dance, through movement, through voice, through writing, through so many different avenues. And this is something that I truly believe is a life-changing experience. And that's why this is one of the core classes at the Flora Sage Therapies Institute, is to bring gratitude or bring that journey through journaling in your practice. And it's huge. I mean, it really is huge being able to bring stuff up and getting it out and working through it and then releasing it. And being willing to do it is first and foremost, the biggest thing. And so for those of you who are going through this book, this really is a journey, and this really is allowing yourself to test out something to see if it resonates with you and to see if it works with you. So Another thing that I recommend also is going through, and this is what, you know, Gabby has us do in day 11, is write a gratitude list. And this is something that I use, the Speed Dial the Universe book by Jeannie Gabellini. She's one of my new business mentors. And I'll put a link to this journal. It's a fabulous, fabulous journal. But in this journal every day, you find things that you're that you're grateful for. I'm trying to talk really fast because I don't want my laptop to shut down. So, anyway, but I will put a link to that below. But so this next week is all about body image, and this is a really big one. And you know, I recently lost 20 pounds, and I've kept it off. And this is something that allowing yourself to release each pound as you go, and the energy that has been kind of trapped in that pound is huge. And we'll talk more about that next week, because this is something that anyone who's lost weight can attest to. Everything that you went through as you were gaining weight comes back and resurfaces as you're losing that particular pound, or as you're releasing that pound, I should say. Another thing that I recommend is the inner child meditation. This was something on day 13 for the Go Big and Expect Miracles. You go in and you talk to your inner child, and I also have an inner child meditation that I have at the Flora Sage Therapies Institute, which is huge. Most of us don't get in touch with our inner child and with our inner self, our young, innocent self, the one before society kind of taints us, if you will, or programs us, you know. And allowing yourself to go back to that true you before you learned how society functions is really big in learning to forgive yourself and working through self-love issues and working through just the ego-driven stuff that society has taught us, you know. So I'm really excited to read everyone's comments about your experiences in working through this book with us, whether you're on week 1 or week, you know, 5 or 6. Well, 6 is the last week. But anyway, let us know where you're at in your journey if you're doing this with us. And until next week, I'm wishing you a fearless and fabulous day filled with miracles. Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us today. And yes, so, and you know, oh, and I will also post the link for the Speed Dial the Universe. This is a really fabulous journal. If you want a really easy thing, it takes like 10 minutes every morning. It's fabulous. I do it every morning. And also, I will post the link to this book, so if you'd like to get it and join in with us, even though we're already going to be doing week 3 next week, that's okay. You can come to the party anytime. So I hope you have a fabulous Memorial Day, and I will be seeing you next Monday at 10 a.m. Central Time. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.